Is that yay, nay? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see your
Yes.
screen.
Oh, good. Okay.
Good
All
to
right. Thank
me.
you so much. I'm gonna. I normally go into presentation mode, but I just don't want to do it today, simply because I want to be able to see the next slide and sort of anticipate a little bit. Um, and also, I'm just not sure the whole format. I didn't get a chance to talk to Charles as much as I wanted to about the format and time, but I know he mentioned some other things. So I want to be able to see his face in case he needs to say, okay, look, we need to speed this part up or slow this part down or what have you. So this just allows me an opportunity to do that. So as you can see here, Big Harry Audacious goes, and I guess you could pronounce that bags. I guess everybody wants to get the bag these days, meaning a lot of money, and it's definitely a good thing. More money is definitely good to have. So many times hear people, money, more problems, or money isn't everything. But I'll say is right underneath oxygen, so you can side with it however you want. People say money doesn't buy happiness, and there's so many arguments one way or another. But I can assure you, as someone who don't or didn't come from it, I don't recall any unhappy days having at least 200 or 300 extra dollars in my pocket that didn't have to go towards any sort of expense. So obviously you have to meet all your basic needs, and then beyond that, I mean, obviously it's incremental after that. So the guy who can pay all of his bills and have $500 left, he's happy. The guy who can pay all of his bills and have $5,000 left, he's also happy. But is he 100 times, 1,000% happier than the guy that has $500 left versus 5,000? That's where I think sort of the arguments and the debates can come in. Once you meet all your goals and you have a little bit left, that's really where happiness resides. Whether you have 2 cars or 10 cars, I think it's all in how complex you want to make your life. But let's just face it, you definitely need it to survive, and there's a large amount of happiness that comes with it. So we're going to talk a little bit about my background. Charles mentioned some of the books, and then also setting some of these goals. Also, I'm sort of an interactive person, so if I say something and it grabs you, I mean, obviously we'll do Q&A at the end. I kept the slide presentation sort of brief, but if something I say grabs your attention, you have a quick question, then please, by all means, just jump in, yell, shout, whatever, and we'll do that. So that being said, I threw a little bit about the background, what I've done, where I am now. You'll see to the left, incidentally, it's the cover of my latest book. And I'll talk a little bit about that more later. But from the mobile home to where mobiles roam. And that is an absolute truth statement. I did grow up in a trailer park. We had a little single wide trailer. And I think everybody knows what it means to be in a trailer park. It's sort of your rural version of growing up in the hood. I mean, there was no gunfire and shooting and all that stuff. But let's face it, there's there's higher ground to shoot for. And I'm sorry.
I do a lot of talking. But
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, it sounds like we're getting some backdrop there. But at any rate, there's higher ground to shoot for. It just is. And I don't care how you slice it. And because I'm from there, I know it. And then you'll look to the right. And what that is an actual event I attend. That's a jet party. That's in the hangar in Boca Raton. That actual picture is actually in the hangar in Palm Beach. So you'll see in the lower left, and that's a picture of a G 550, a Gulfstream 550 jet. In the far right upper corner is a Piper. There's some other jets that you can't see in the background. And the cars that you see there are all Ferraris, or should I say primarily Ferraris. There's a helicopter just above the Gulfstream there. And again, it's not about, hey, look, I got all the money, let's make it rain, blah, blah, blah. But it is about getting to a certain level in life. And I'm glad to be a part of these types of events and these types of things, because I think ultimately, whether you want a Ferrari or ride on a private jet, or you want a vacation or retire early, all these are great things to do. And if people are about what they say they're about, and say, well, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. My opinion has always been there should be something to show for it. Don't stand on a soapbox and tell me, how successful you are, how great you are at this, and there's nothing to show for it. Now I understand there's a very famous, well, I don't know how famous it is, but there's a saying that rich talks, wealth whispers, and that's fine. If you've had it that long, and you don't have to, let everybody know what you're doing, that's okay. I have no problem with that, but I'm enjoying my ride along the way. It doesn't mean that my family is sitting on tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, but we're having a good time right now, and I don't mind sharing that. And I think it continues to serve as proof, because you get so much crap from so many people that they're doing this and they're doing that. They won't tell you how they've gotten there, or they give you fluff that you have to really question, what you're seeing and what you're hearing. And I never wanted to be that type of person. So I said, hey, look, if things are working for you, then it should be obvious to somebody. And I've sort of continued to flow like that. So I'm a very visual type of person. I use pictures a lot, and that's what I'll continue to do throughout this presentation. Going down a little bit about my education, I do understand the Low Country, where Charles mentioned, that whole Charleston area. My first post high school studies was at the Citadel, which is a military college. From there, I did go up to Harvard University to study Ukrainian. Also, my cousin Stephanie, that you'll also see on the line, she went to Harvard as well. We missed each other by just a little bit. Did get an MBA, Doctorate in International Business. Also, incidentally, currently I am at MIT studying artificial intelligence. And I'm going to pause for just a moment. I want to share a video uh, with you all, just to show that I mean business about what I'm saying. Can everyone see this book right here? Can someone give me a thumbs up or yay or nay?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you. So this book right here is Elon Musk. This book just came out a couple of weeks ago. I pre-ordered it. It's a pretty thick book. It's 615 pages. The reason why I show you this book regarding my MIT studies is on page 605 of 615 pages. It reads the following, just one sentence. It's talking about Elon Musk. As you all know, he owns Tesla, SpaceX, Boring Company. He owns X, formerly known as Twitter, and he also has an AI company, artificial intelligence. And he was having some trouble finding artificial intelligence people to work with him. And it says he was having some trouble recruiting AI scientists, because the new frenzy about the field meant that anyone with experience could command starting bonuses, not salary, but bonuses. And I'm reading this verbatim, of $1 million or more. Now, again, you won't be able to see the fine print, but it's highlighted here. It's on page 615 or 605 of 615. When I read that, I said, you know what? Whether a person wants to drive a Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever have you, there's a lot of people that can use $1 million sign-on bonus. And so what I did was I said, well, let me get a little smarter to this AI thing. I don't currently work in AI. Not saying that I necessarily wanted to, but I like to know options for people to have who want to do great things. So I finished reading the last 10 pages of the book. And then what I did was I said, you know what? Maybe you should look at some artificial intelligence classes. And so that's what I did. I found a program at MIT. I signed up for it and started last week. So it's about a 7-week program. Now, do I expect to get $1 million sign-on bonus immediately after that program is done? No, I really don't. I really don't know where to go, but at least I'll be able to get in the game. Charles is obviously a big proponent of higher education. He has a very heavy academic background, do some things a lot of people certainly can't do. So I'm glad he shared that with us. But the point is I've gotten some certifications and they've been immediately profitable. Will this be one of them? I don't know, but what I can see from artificial intelligence, I don't think it's a bad way to spend my time. And with a guy like that saying $1 million sign-on bonus, I mean, why would I not? So again, that's sort of that immediate feedback. If you're doing something, if you're on a soapbox telling about how good your life is and what you're doing, there should be something immediately tangible. Somebody else should see it. Incidentally, I can see one of my degrees on the wall. Actually, it's not a degree. I sit on the board of directors at the Citadel's Business School. I literally just happened to notice that in the backdrop. But again, these things should be, something should be immediately tangible. You shouldn't be on a soapbox rambling on and no one can see what you're doing. So that's an actual very real time testament to the things I'm seeing. Moving to the next slide here, education continues. Those are just some certifications I've got or other schools I've attended. You see Tsinghua or Harvard Business School and Tsinghua University's private equity and venture capital program over in Asia. That's something I did. I did some financial planning at Georgetown and other things, but just a little bit more about my education. My background, Charles knows me from the investment forum. And when I was, oh, I'm sorry, I'm seeing a lot going on in the chat here. Let's see what we got. Oh, okay. All right. Those are just comments. Okay, good. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Charles and a number of other people met me when I was doing what's called the investment forum. Both Charles and I worked at Booz Allen Hamilton. And it's a great company. Let's face it, it's a good company. Everybody can't get in. You definitely have to have, like Stephanie or my Aunt Annie. I just happen to know them, their face. You got to have credentials to get in a Booz Allen. They just don't let everyone in. And yeah, it's common, have a six-figure salary. That's great. You're certainly getting by. The average household in the U.S. I believe now is about 70,000. That's two people together. So to have one person, commanding $100,000, it sounds great and it is good. It's decent. It's a good way to make a living. But Charles knew he wanted more than that, and so did I. And so what happens is you find yourself in these sort of water cooler conversations at work. You come back from the weekend, and everybody's, "How was your weekend?" "It was too short." Or you get to the end of the week, TGIF, thank God it's Friday, and it's the same old boring conversation. And you're looking for other people that are doing great things, so you can continue to share stories or get like-minded stories and those types of things. And that's how Charles and I met, probably through mutual friends. But what happened was, going to work day in and day out, you make your 100 grand and you live in a decent house, you drive a decent car. But then you flip open a paper like the Washington Post or New York Times, or going back to that private jet picture, the Financial Times. And incidentally, if you want to know what the people on private jets read, there's four newspapers. USA Today, they don't really pay any attention. They get the Washington Post, they get the New York Times, and they get the Financial Times. And they swear by those papers. And those are just good, there's good little points to know. You just wouldn't know that otherwise if you don't have the privilege to fly on a private jet or know that industry. But that's what they do. They do it every trip. It's like clockwork. So it's just something that's good to know. But at any rate, you want to know more about that crowd, those types of people, so you can have those types of options. So what happened was, I was doing some real estate investing on the side, doing condos, small town homes, through growth, going back to my hometown in the Washington D.C. region. I figured I'd go back to South Carolina, where I'm from, and I did something that my aunt did. Again, Amy, who's on here, she had property back in our hometown, and Stephanie as well. Stephanie grew up in Florida, but they also had property back in Camden. So that sort of started our roots. It's sort of an organic growth to things. And you start saying, okay, how can I get more into what was naturally for us, the real estate game? Some people will choose stocks, for some people to be hotels and other things, but it's a very sort of organic way to get involved in something bigger. It can lead to something greater. So I started doing some properties, getting some tenants and getting my feet wet in that sort of field. And what happened when I came back to work, one Monday, we're sitting around and talking to some friends, and it's like, well, hey, what did you do this weekend? And it was like, well, watch the football game. It's football season, or watch the basketball game or whatever. And it's, hey, Vaughn, what did you do? I said, well, bought a townhouse. And I said, well, wait a minute. The way I understand it, you just built a really nice single family home just a few months ago. And you just sort of casually went out and bought a townhouse. It's like, I got to know, like, what, how did you do that? So I said, well, maybe we'll sit down and talk about it one day. Honestly, I thought what they wanted to do was just come to my new house and watch the football game. But I've never been that guy to just, have the guy hang out and put your feet all over my IKEA furniture. That was never me. I get really nice high end things. No, you're not going to turn it into the homeboy hangout. So, you're not going to, have, brew pop, bottles of Michelob or whatever and throw the tops on the floor. That's just not how I roll. But they kept backing me in the corner saying, tell us more about it. So I said, okay, fine. I started saying, what we'll do, we'll put some structure and form into this thing as I'm getting more intelligent questions. So I said, I'll tell you what, come out to the house this Saturday, and we'll get into some things. So then, the guys in the office start saying, well, hey, I know somebody else business minded. Can I invite this person? Can I invite that person? So he said, yeah, sure. And that was a Monday. By, I think, Thursday, we got up to like 15 people. And at that point, I said, okay, you're going to have to put a slide deck together. Let's get some food. Let's get some structure in this thing, because they're looking for information and they believe that you have it. So that Saturday, 4 o'clock, and my aunt Pumpkin was there. I opened the door and there were 30 people standing there. And we started about 5 o'clock and we ended at 5 a.m. the next morning. We stayed there all night. They threw every question at me they had. I answered it. We did presentations. We did everything we could. They asked me everything they could. I asked them everything that I could. Oh, 35. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Pumpkin. Um, they asked me, I asked them, I gave them everything I had. They gave me everything they had. And I said, we're all the wiser for this. I didn't charge them anything. They didn't charge me anything. I said, we got to share this information and collaborate. So as people were filing out, they said, when is the next one? I was thinking, wow, never thought about a next one. But everybody was saying the same thing. So it was that then I realized that, people are starving for ways to get ahead. So I started doing another and another, and then next thing you know, 35 was 50, and 50 was 75, and 75, 85, and at 100. And so the other thing I found out was people were coming to these investment forums. That's what I ended up calling it. But they were further along than I was, and they didn't realize it. They were looking at me like, hey, you're the guy. But I'm looking back at them, especially when it's two households. I'm like, you're further along than I am, but they didn't know that. So what I had to do was go out and get the information and insight from people who were infinitely further along than I was, and then feed that back to them. So I said, well, you're going to have to reach way up the ladder. And so I said, what better place to start than top? So one of the first people I reached out to was Robert Johnson, who was the first Black billionaire. As many of you know, he started Black Entertainment Television. He got a $500,000 loan. He ended up selling it for $3 billion many years later. And then I also started to realize how much money and politics go hand in hand. Again, referencing my cousin Stephanie. She worked in Senator Nelson's office. He was the Democratic senator from Florida. And he was on Capitol Hill, so she was there with him. So she gained a lot of insight as well. But we started realizing how these things tie hand in hand. So then I started reaching out to big political people. Some of you may remember a name, Kwesi Nkrumah. He was the president of the NAACP, but then he also ran for Senate, and he campaigned actually on the steps of a home I built back in 2006. He came out from Maryland to Virginia. We had a house full, and he campaigned right there on my steps. I also reached out to Vernon Jordan. I got invited to his home. Some of you may know Vernon Jordan, some of you may not. Vernon Jordan as if those of you who are old enough to remember the whole Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton scandal, uh, Vernon Jordan was always close to Bill Clinton. He was a very tall, very dark-skinned black man, probably 6'5", 6'6". And I noticed he would always be around President Clinton, and I would hear his name, but I didn't know anything about him at the time. I went on to learn that Vernon Jordan is one of the most powerful black men in the country. His Rolodex, he made millions of dollars from him. He sat on the boards of the highest companies, Fortune 500 companies in the US. He would have a direct hand in appointing many of our black CEOs, Ken Chenault and American Express. I just, my mind just sort of fogs up at the moment, but a lot of the people, Xerox, the young lady that ran Xerox, I can't spit out her name at the moment, but he had a direct hand in appointing those people. Going back to real estate, there's a young black gentleman who runs a real estate company called Compass. It's worth many billions of dollars. They would expect him to be the next black billionaire. I don't know how that's going now. Obviously, the real estate market is having trouble, but he got his start, or should I say, he got a big springboard from Vernon Jordan, because Vernon Jordan introduced him to a White House fellow, and I didn't know what a White House fellow was. Ursula Barnes, thank you so much, Stephanie. Yes, Vernon Jordan was the reason why she got that, and I met her as well, and just so happened in the private jet airport. But at any rate, Vernon Jordan introduced the young gentleman to the White House Fellows Program. From there, he met someone, and on and on, and he ended up creating Compass, the real estate company. And so he's doing big things. So the investment forum was intended to be a forum, just as it says, you bring people together and you share ideas. And I wasn't out to profit in terms of getting people's information. I wanted to share it. Now, I did eventually start charging people to come to the forum, but it was just for the food. I would have a very elaborate set out. And again, and my Aunt Pumpkin, once again, said, instead of going out and buying food from the public, let's get your aunt in who likes to cook. Would bring my aunt up from South Carolina, and she would set out a very elaborate spread. We kept it in the family. We bought the food. She was able to get paid. I made a few dollars based off, what was left after food and drinks. But it was a very, very insightful forum. People would stay for hours, and they got a lot from it. It got so to the point where just walking through the normal malls, I would get stopped by just random people. So it was good. There was a lot of achievements from that because I watched people's personal financial situations grow. And from there, it fed me into my next levels, which is what I'm going to go to the next slide, what you'll see today. So where I am today, as Charles mentioned, and another gentleman mentioned, I heard him, I don't see his name there, but you were talking about hotels. What I thought was going to be my very next natural step was to go into hotels. So I ended up meeting with J.W. Marriott. Marriott, that is a name. It's just not, some made up company. J.W. Marriott is the founder of Marriott. I didn't meet him, but his son, who was also he was much older at the time, but I ended up meeting with them and their team, and their headquarters out in Bethesda. They have what they call a CFIRST portfolio, CFRST, Courtyard, Fairfield Inn, Residence Inn, Time Place Suites. Those are your entry level hotels. And I thought I would end up getting, as Charles mentioned, 100 to 200 rooms, because those are your workhorses. You want about 4 or 5 of them. Ultimately, you want about 100 keys right off 95, 26, I-20, all your major intersections across the interstate, across the U.S. You just want to, when you're going down the interstate and you see the sign and you pull right off and there's a hotel right there. Key means room. You want 100 rooms, no food, no beverage. Those big, fine, fancy hotels, those are trophies for whoever owns them. Your real workhorses that put you in a good setting is those 100 to 200 key room hotels. You want a couple of them right off the interstate, preferably in an area near a business center. And those are your money makers. I've since learned that also a good 65, 70 in our small town of Camden, South Carolina. We have a Hampton Inn. I've been meeting with the owners of that. They have 65 rooms, and that's been very profitable for them. I thought a hotel would be my first investment, but instead I ended up with a shopping center. And what you see there is the the festival at Bel Air, and I just sort of jokingly say that, step aside, Will Smith, I'm the Prince of Bel Air. And what you see there is 433,000 square feet. It is anchored by a grocery store. There's Kohl's, there's Five Below. You'll see Buffalo Wild Wings, Panera Bread, Vance Auto Parts, Chuck E. Cheese, there's a Petco, Marshalls, Burlington. Those are our anchor tenants. But really, what I focus on now is shopping centers that are anchored by grocery stores, because what they turned out to be, even during the pandemic, where other stores you couldn't get in, the grocery store always stays open. And when you get a good anchor tenant and you surround it by other tenants, you keep good profitable margins, and that's what it's been. This was a $120 million deal. There's been several investors went in. We have I think it's a 10-year loan. We financed about 75 million, and with the rest, what we're doing is making some upgrades. What you tend to want to do when you find yourself in these type of situations, you want to go not for anything brand new, and that wasn't so clear to a lot of people. They thought that, okay, so you have a bunch of land and this is what you propose. Like, no, 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 no. That's the actual center. We picked this up from Trammell Crow. For those of you who understand commercial real estate, Trammell Crow is a big time player in the commercial real estate space. Mr. Trammell unfortunately passed away. This deal was with a pension fund. And when you think pension fund, you have to think, if you go to work every day, you have a 401k or an IRA, you put that money in, it piles up, piles up, piles up. Well, $120 million, individuals don't have that kind of money. So your 401k pension guy, he has it. So he has to find things to invest in. He can't go out and take all of Booz Allen Hamilton's money and go buy a bunch of Tesla stock from Elon, because he's going to shift the market. That's not going to work. He's going to have to put it into an alternative investment, something like the shopping center. The trouble is, when he does that, in a couple of years, people are going to be retiring. Some people are going to leave. They're going to want their money. Some of that money goes into 529 college plans. Or eventually, the young kids are going to want to go to college. They're going to need that money. So they can't sit on these shopping centers for so long. They have to put them with someone, and then they move on. So when Trammell passed away, this deal hit the streets. Well, it didn't hit the streets. But what it did was, and I'm going to show you this. Let me pause my sharing, and I'm going to show you once again, because I try to be real time with this stuff, what happens. And please let me know if you can see this. Can everyone see this book right here? Or just nod if you can say, okay, thanks so much, Ken. That says investing in retail properties, and the gentleman on the cover, his name is Gary D. Rappaport. And Rappaport is our lead developer on this. I'm going to go back to stop my video and going back to sharing my screen here. So Rappaport is the lead developer on that. He's been in this business about 40 years. He has about $3 billion in the portfolio worth of commercial real estate shopping centers. That's about 31 deals. All but 2 of them have been used. And so what it is you get these shopping centers, and about every 10 years you refinance them, you take some cash out, you repay your investors, and then you might make some fixer-uppers. But that's how you really get your profitability. Now, so those of you that are keeping up with the commercial real estate markets right now, you're hearing a lot about the trouble that's brewing. The commercial real estate market's going to crash. And trust me, there's going to be some trouble. The reason why that is because a couple of years ago, interest rates were low. For those of you who have homes and bought homes, your residential mortgage, some people locked in at 2.5%, 3%. Well, you can't do that anymore. A residential interest rates right now are 8%. So if you bought a shopping center at, let's say, for $50 million 10 years ago, well, it's time to refinance now, because you don't sit on a shopping center for 30 years like you do a mortgage. Every 10 years, you go back in there and you redo it. Well, if you bought at 3%, 10 years later, guess what? Interest rates are at 8% or 9% now. when you refinance, you're in trouble. So the mortgage will shoot through the roof. The tenants are going to get completely reamed. The developers can't afford to pay it. And most of the time, these things are financed by regional banks. So these regional banks are about to get pummeled with all these loans that are about to reset. And the people can't afford to refinance them because the rates are so high. And that's where you get a lot of trouble. And that's why I partnered with someone who had 40 years of experience, and I get to see what he's doing, what he's done, and that helps me out. So that's where I am today. With that, let me move to my next slide. I didn't mean to spend quite so much time on there, but again, that's what we do. Now, I'm going to shift a little bit, simply because in putting together this deck, Charles mentioned some of the books that I wrote. Now, on this slide, you'll see Donald Trump. It doesn't mean I'm a Republican. It doesn't mean I'm a Trump fan. What you'll also see is Donald Trump's house to the right. That is Mar-a-Lago. That is his actual residence. The reason why I put Donald Trump's book there, Trump Think Like a Billionaire, is, and I believe that book came out in 2003. 2004 in the fall, about this time of year. Well, I wasn't a reader, even though I went to college and I got degrees. I didn't like reading books. I thought reading books were boring. I thought I'd rather take a nap than read a book because I was coming off what I saw academically. I mean, you have to read from school, and a chapter is very long and the font is small. I was doing some real estate. And once again, I have to reference my family is right here on the call, both Stephanie and my Aunt Annie. We were doing some residential showings of new commercial or new developments. So when a new community pops up, they take one home and make it the model. Well, we were showing the models, and I was working in the area in near Reston, Virginia, and Charles is familiar with this area. It was really, really slow. We were working out of a trailer because they hadn't built the model yet. So working out of the trailer, it was, again, we were coming up on Thanksgiving, and the lead agent said, "Hey, look, you might want to get a book because it's going to be really slow. Nobody's come in. It's cold. It's rainy. The model is not here yet. So why don't you go down to the bookstore and grab a book?" And I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm not a reader, but what the hey, I'll go and get a magazine. But at the same time, around this time, I'm thinking, I really want to be further along in terms of the money game. I just want to be a wealthier individual. And so I said, you're going to have to stop acting so stupid and just start reading. And I said, read these books and see what they're talking about. And it was at that time, Trump's book just came out, Trump Think Like a Billionaire. So I went in the bookstore, it was about 35 bucks on sale for $29.99. So I picked it up and I said, well, maybe I can glean something from it. So I picked it up and I started flipping through it. And I was like, well, what the heck? The chapters are only 6 or 7 pages each. I said, I can deal with that. 6 pages, I can read that chapter. And the font was big. It was like size 12 point. It was like double space. I'm like, okay, this is more my speed. So I started reading the book. And he just started dropping so much motivational information, what his day like, what his mindset was like. And he was like, dream big. It's like, you got to dream anyway. Why would you waste your time dreaming small? And I'm like, I dig that. And then he was saying things like, when people write these books, How I Made $1 Million, you got to read this stuff. He's like, look, I don't need the money. And I read every one of them. So what is your excuse? Now, we fast forward to 2023. Do I believe everything Trump was saying? I do not. But that's not the point. The point was he's reading his book is what set me in motion. He said at that time he reads one book a month. And I started that same journey. So since 2004, November, I've been reading on average one book a month. And when you do that from 2004 to almost 2024, you acquire a lot of knowledge and insight. So much so that your circles change because you start to learn so much more. Now, that picture of Donald Trump's house there is Mar-a-Lago, and I know that for a fact because I've been there. I went there a couple of years ago, right before I went to the jet party, which I showed you in a previous slide. And down there, you see a big pool in the center. We were down there in the center, and in the grass that you see behind the pool there, we had an exotic car show. So Rolls Royces, Bentleys, and Lamborghinis, and all this kind of thing. I'm just sort of into that stuff. So we had a big shindig on his property. Now, I would have loved to go into President Obama's house for a shindig, but I never got that invite. In fact, best I could tell, I don't know who gets to go to President Obama's house or President Bush for that matter. I did, and right at this moment, I did meet someone who got invited to President Bush's house, and she showed me some pictures of the property, and it just looks like a park. I mean, they must have 400 acres out there, something ridiculous. But anyway, the point was, I did go to Donald Trump's estate. I did meet some people, and I did end up at polo matches, which I do recommend if anyone's ever in South Florida. Attend a polo match is a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon. So, but at any rate, reading that became influential. So much so, I'll go to my next slide. And this guy name is Ted Leonsis. Ted owns the Washington Mystics, the Washington Wizards, the Verizon Center. He was one of the co-founders, or credited as one of the co-founders of America Online. He's worth many billions of dollars. And if you look at that, it says The Business of Happiness. And that's a book that Ted wrote many years ago. I did meet Ted right after that book came out. There's also a name up top there that you'll see that we just mentioned, Ken Chenault, CEO and chairman of American Express. Again, that came by the help of Vernon Jordan, Ken Chenault's role. What you don't see on that slide is when Ted's book came out, and he said, look, you got to have a dream sheet. You got to have something that you're shooting for. So he said, I want you to share your dreams. What is it that you want out there? So he opened it up to the public and said, hey, look, write in, and I'm going to pick somebody, and I'm going to share what they wrote. So you had, and again, you can't see it here, you had Alex Ovechkin, the great, I think called something Great Eight or something like that. He's the star player for the Washington hockey team. You had LeBron James. You had, I think, Maria Shriver, which was, I believe, Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife. You had about 4 or 5 household names that were very influential. And then you have my name, and you have my dreams. And it says right there, it's March the 4th of, I think, 2010 or something like that. And what I put together was the $40 million dream sheet. And I had it broken down what I was going to do with the money, from the house to the cars to charity and all these things. And so I put it out there, and he found it so interesting that he put it on his website right there amongst all the other people. Again, if I wasn't a reader, that would have never happened. Maybe I would have never met Ted, but fortunately I did. So when you read all this stuff and you just pile in all this knowledge in your head, what comes out, you start writing books yourself. So that was my first book there, Real Estate for Real People, in 2008. I wrote it on how to get started, even if you're Joe the plumber, wherever you are, because people like to say, hey, I got started in real estate. I had no money down, I had bad credit, and I'm like, I don't buy that stuff. I mean, I'm just like, how are you gonna go get a house these days, or any day for that matter, with horrible credit, or no income, or you're not making any money? I don't know where this stuff comes from, unless you can pool together a team of people and they put the money in. But you're going from a purely individual basis. You go in a bank and you got a 400 credit score and you make $10,000 a year. Nobody's going to give you a $250,000 loan to buy a home unless it has $500,000 worth of equity in it, and that's a different story. But at any rate, so that was my first book. My second book was called Slide 68, sort of a cryptic title, but I came up with that title when I got to China, when I went to that program with Harvard and Tsinghua. And what was happening is I was at Booz Allen Hamilton, again, where Charles and I mentioned. I was working there. You get those same boring water cooler conversations, and you're sitting there trying to look interested. but you're really bored with what everybody's saying. And I went to a meeting that afternoon after work at the end of the workday, and they were presenting all these things about what they were doing. And so I'm like, oh man, this is a total bore. And so I looked up and they were on slide 65. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. They had 65 slides. Like, who do you think is listening at this point? Like, this is way too many. You got to cut this crap down. So then they look up and they're on slide 66. And I'm like, oh, this sucks, man. I don't want to hear this crap. I'm at Vernon Jordan's house, and Kwesi Mfume is at my house, and I'm learning about Ted Leonsis, and I'm learning about R. Donahue Peoples, who they call the Black Donald Trump, and how he's worth hundreds of millions. And here I am sitting at Booz Allen Hamilton making a whopping $110,000 a year. This is not where I want to be. So around that time, I got a text from someone I was dating, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm in this long, boring, drawn out PowerPoint presentation, and they're on slide 66." And she's like, "Well, look, you've already wrote a book. You bought your $1 million home. You drive a $100,000 car. You got a lot of things going on. This will just be another chapter in your book. Just try to be cool and sit through it." And so I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll talk to you later." So I looked up. They're on slide 67. And then it hit me. I said, book, yeah, next chapter. You know what? If they hit slide 68, I'm out of here. So sure enough, they said, as you can see on slide 68, I was like, that's it. I grabbed my books, I grabbed my computer, my notebook, whatever I had, and I left. And I went back to my desk and I started typing. This is where I am and this is where I want to be. And the title of the book is Slide 68. And that's where the title came from. So the subtitle is 86 Your Current Life, which means throw it away in hip hop language. 86, throw it away, and pursue the lifestyle you're dreaming of. When I got to China, incidentally, I was on a bus headed to the Great Wall of China. You'll see that picture of that later. The tour guide, her name was Johnny. It was a female, but her name was Johnny. And she said, incidentally, and I can't make this stuff up, of all the numbers she could have pulled out of the air, she said, incidentally, in Chinese, the number 8 or number 6 means everything will go your way. And the number 8 means wealth. And then she just went back to what she was saying. Oh, yeah, this is the Olympic Village. I'm like, whoa, wait, what? How could you pull those two numbers out of the air? No one asked you any of this stuff. And then you just went back. And so that was my key to keep writing. So I ended up writing the book, Slide 68. The last book I wrote was most recently, how I went from the mobile home to where mobiles roam. And that's just a guide to creating a legendary lifestyle. Again, so the image there, that's a home that I'm having designed as we speak. In fact, I didn't plan this, but I'm just going to bring it up. I guess you all can still see this. Let me open my, I guess I'm still sharing this. Am I still sharing? Can you all see this home design? Can anyone see that? No? Am I not sharing? Okay.
We can just see your book and the cover.
Okay. All right. Well, I won't worry about it at the moment. But at any rate, so, oh, you know what? I was trying to share it from the wrong place. Anyway, don't worry. Won't worry. No, not a big deal. So that's a home that I'm designing. It's very similar to that. And so those are the books that I read. Let me go into a little bit about Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals, because I think we're getting to the top of the hour here, and I don't want to hijack all of the meeting, and why you should do it. Like one of the stories I talk about in my book, Mobile Home to Where Mobiles Roam, I was giving a talk once to a small group of people, and it was a gentleman. He was in the military, very professional, very astute young man, and we were talking about goal setting. And I asked him, I said, what are some of your goals? And the young gentleman said, I want a Bentley. I said, okay, that's fine. Why Bentley? He said, I don't know. It's just, it's just a car. It just does it for me. That's fair enough. I said, have you ever, I said, what kind of Bentley do you want? He said, I don't know. So I'm like, okay, well, that's one problem we got to solve. I said, do you have a family? And I said, do you want two door or four door? He said, I don't know. I said, you got a family? He said, yeah. I said, well, let's eliminate two door. So let's look at four door. I said, have you ever touched a Bentley? Ever sat in one? Ever driven one? No, 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 no. I was like, okay, well, let's see if we can put some action items toward this big, hairy, audacious goal of yours. I said, do you know where a Bentley dealership is? He said, I don't even know. So I said, first thing, let's figure out where it is, right? Let's go online, look at all the Bentley models. Pick one. Let's focus on one. Let's get smart to it. Find out how many gallons it holds, what size tires, what's the top speed, what colors do they make it in. Find out as much as you can about it. Then let's go out to the Bentley dealership. But I know what he's thinking. He's like, no, I'm not going to go out there and make a fool of myself because I don't have that kind of money. I'm going to pull up driving a very pedestrian car. People are going to know I don't have the money. And then I'm going to look foolish. And I was like, nope, that's not how you do it. I said, go and find out everything you can about that particular model. And then after you do that, call the Bentley dealership. Secretary answer the phone. Let's just pretend it's a female. Could be a male. It's going to answer the phone. You know, this is Bentley of Bethesda, but you know, Euro Motor Cars is what it's called. And so, you know, just tell her, hey, listen, I'm interested in your. And I said, by the way, does it have to be new or used? I don't know. Used is fine. At the time, I said, let's tell her you're interested in a 2015 Bentley Azure, or let's do a 2016 Mulsanne, which is a four-door Bentley, by the way. And so tell her you want to speak to one of her sales representatives. Okay. He gets on the phone and the conversation will go something like this. Hello, Mr. Whoever soldier. How can I help you? Mr. Bentley salesman, my name is, Sergeant such and such. I'm interested in in some of your used Mulsannes. Listen, you won't make a sale today. But what I want to know what your service bays look like. I want to know what some of your extended warranties are. I want to know where do you pull inventory from? When I bring the Bentley in, I want to know, do you have a loaner for me? Those types of things. I want to know, do you have any time to, we can sit down and talk? The guy's going to say, yeah, I got some time. What day? Was Saturday good for you? Yeah, Saturday's good. What time? 3 o'clock. Soldier X is going to go there at 3 o'clock. This guy's, he may ask what kind of car he's driving, but fine, park around the corner, walk up, just end up in the showroom. This guy's going to show you the bays. He's going to pull out 2 or 3 Bentleys. He's going to show you new. He's going to show you used. He's going to give you a test drive. But when you do it like that, now it's much more loaded. You sound much more intelligent. There's ways to back into everything. Just walking up to the Bentley dealership with no plan, yeah, you're going to be scared and you're going to be afraid they're going to laugh you away. But when you put it in a plan, like some of the things I highlight in the book, you get a lot further with it. One of the other things that you'll see there, you see a yacht party. That was an advertisement that I did. I always wanted to know what it was to be on a stretch mega yacht. I took my family out over the summer, and we had that pictures of 100 and I believe 16. No, that's 105-foot azimuth. We had I think we had 105 feet, 115, something like that, azimuth yacht. Took the family out over the summer. Well, I always thought yachts were cool, but I saw yachts oh yeah, you're welcome, Buggy. I saw yachts back in Annapolis in 1998. And someone who I was riding with me, and I said, look, there's a yacht over there on a party. I said, let's go over there. And the person was like, oh no, we can't go over there. That's not our party. I'm like, but we can at least go and get close to it. And I allowed the person to talk me out of it. And I didn't go over there. And so I just threw it out of my mind for many, many years. I said, that's a big, hairy, audacious goal for sure. But what if I would have followed up on it? What if I would have went there? What if I was by myself? If I had someone who was more supportive, maybe I would have taken the family out on a yacht 15 years ago. So, you have to set these big goals and get after them because a lot can come from them. Where did all that goal setting come from for me and getting real serious about it? A lot of it came from my aunt. Again, the very one on this picture here. She put a dream home on her refrigerator many, many years ago. And I saw that and I started doing it. Where it really hit grease lightning for me, and I really got even more serious about it. Some of you are familiar with that DVD, The Secret by Rhonda Burns. I think I misspelled her name right there, but it's not a big deal. It's called The Secret. And you'll see that gentleman to the left, his name's Bob Proctor. Opening of a video, he said, "What kind of house do you want to live in?" And I thought about it. I thought, I know what kind of house I want to live in. And so, I really got after it. And so, but I really had to think about it. It's like not a house you saw someone else living in. Like, where would this house be? What's the county? What's the state? What's the zip code? How much land? Is it 2-story, 4-story? What color is it? How many garages or garage bays does it have? Is there a pool in it? Where's the kitchen? How big is the kitchen? What about the master bedroom? What about the master bathroom? How many bedrooms does it have? What kind of flooring do you have? How tall are the ceilings? What about the front door? How tall is the window? I really, really, really got into that thing. And that's what led me down to South Florida, which eventually led me to Donald Trump's house, which led me to polo matches, which led me to yachts and mansions and Lamborghinis and all some substance with some formation behind it. Really gets behind it, really gets why doing those things. So that's why you have these big goals. And then, also, if it costs you nothing to dream, but it costs you everything if you don't dream. So that's why you do these things. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where they go. Rhonda Burns, The Secret, thanks so much. There we go. She spelled it correctly for me. But that's why you do this stuff. You don't know where it's going. You start meeting like-minded people like Charles, and it takes you a long way. So I've talked a lot. You've been gracious to listen to me. So we hit some Q&A. There's some other pictures of one in the far left. That's us on the yacht this summer. The one in the middle, that's me over in China on the Great Wall. And then the one to the right there, that is the hotel I was staying at in China at the Harvard program. So again, I've talked a lot. You've been gracious. I didn't really hear a lot. So let me stop there, stop the sharing, and I'll either turn it back to Charles or we can do some Q&A if anyone wants to.
Any questions?
Thanks so much for so many people joining, by the way.
Okay.
Either you have a very smart audience or everybody is. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. To those of you who are thinking me, really appreciate it. Either you have some very smart clientele online.
I have a question, Vaughn.
Hey, go ahead, Bunga.
I don't really have a question. Everyone online, I'm his biggest cheerleader. When he's doing something, I always support him. I always tell Vaughn when he first graduated from the Citadel, I said, I really don't have a present for you, but if you're ever in Virginia, come on up and you can stay at my house as long as you want to. And so I always support you. And one of the things you were telling me your achievements, thank you so much for sharing that with us. But you didn't tell him anything about that hat and t-shirt you were wearing.
Oh, yeah. You know what?
So please tell them about the hat and t-shirt.
Yeah. Let me stop the video and share. So what happened for those of you? Let me go back to share my screen here. This says Gorilla Grind, and what it is when I was at the private jet airport one day. This was several years ago, and again, going back to Robert Johnson, the first Black billionaire, I saw him. I got a chance to talk to him many years ago. I wrote to him, to his office when I first started investment for him, and I wanted to get some insight from him. And I had to go through her secretary, and she kept kicking me out. And then eventually she passed me through to him. I got a chance to talk to him for 6 minutes and 22 seconds. I remember it very vividly. And we talked. We had some great Q&A there, and I got a lot of motivation from him. He told me that he was really impressed with what I had done to that point. But what happened was when I met him, and to let you know, fortunes aren't always. You do hit tough spots, and I hit a tumultuous time. The market turns on me, and I ended up losing everything. And I mean that literally. I lost my job. I lost all my properties. I lost my short-term savings, my long-term savings, I lost everything. But I wasn't scared to not go in a private jet airport, because I said, that's where you want to be. So I'm not scared, you know, whether I got money or not, go in there and be around the people you want to be around. And so he walked past me, and I didn't want to stop him and say, hey, remember when you met me and I had the $1 million home and the $100,000 car? Well, I don't have any of that now. I still want to talk to you. I didn't do that. He walked past me, and I didn't want to interrupt him, one, because he was walking fast, he was in a hurry, and he had his entourage with him. But I did see his jet that was waiting outside. And when he walked past me, and he got on his jet, he bound up those stairs. They closed that capsule, and that jet took off, and I was so inspired. But at the same time, I was angry, and I mean mad, mad, mad angry. And I said, you know what? That's how you grind. If you want private jet level success, buddy, you got to grind for it. And right at that moment, I said, you know what? You got to capture this anger that you have. Capture this moment. What do you see when you see this? And I said, I see a city. I see a city like New York City, and I'm angry like a gorilla that's climbed up all the way to the top of the highest building in that city. And he is angry, and he has and I'm going to try to find an image while I'm talking. And he has where's the darn thing? He's angry, and there's a jet going off in the background. And I said, what you're going to have to do is I'm going to create a t-shirt that has this gorilla in the background. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a t-shirt company. And so I did. I created a t-shirt company, and okay, let's see. Okay, yeah. I created a t-shirt company called Activate Gorilla Grind, and that's what I did. I created this company, and we started, selling the t-shirts, and that's what you see on that t-shirt that I was wearing. That was Gorilla Grind. And you can see some of it. I don't know. I can't tell what I'm sharing right now. But at any rate, if you go on Facebook and you see my Gorilla Grind, that's what it is. That's where it came from. So thanks so much, Pummy, for reminding me of that. Let's see. What is your system to attract and keep investors? Do you put other people's money in the fund? Very good question. Yes, other people's money, absolutely. To attract investors, I think you have to have a good prospectus out there, so they understand exactly what they're putting their money into, and you show them the returns over the years, when they can expect to get money back. And one of the things about that, why we do I say asset management. One of the reasons why you do existing shopping centers versus brand new builds. Brand new builds take a long time to get people's money back. But in an existing place, you can go in, you can negotiate a good deal, you can make some minor upgrades, you already have tenants in there already paying, and you can start giving people quarterly dividends almost immediately. But if you're doing a new build, you first got to acquire land, which costs a lot of money. Then you got to get a building off the ground. That takes a while. Then you got to get the tenants in there. That takes a while. It could be 5 years before investors see return on their money. But if you can get, an existing bill, you can get returns almost immediately. So yeah, prospectus. That's exactly what I have, and that's what I read. Okay, yeah, got it. Yeah, so that's what I do. You put together prospectus, show the returns, from year to year, and that's what keeps it in versus just not having anything. So I lost everything. What keeps me motivated? Having those big goals. I have a dream board, just like that $40 million dream sheet. I write things down that I want, and I chase them with everything I got. But it has to be something that's not just out of reach. You can't just say, oh, I want an $800 pair of shoes. I mean, let's face it. If you got a job, even if you owe everything you got, thank you, Ms. Martin. it can't be something like $800 pair of shoes, because you can just neglect paying your light bill and your mortgage and go buy $800 pair of shoes. You got to be shooting for something that's just way out there. It's going to make you a better person. You're going to introduce you to better people. It's going to make you read books. And that's what keeps you going. The other thing on that is what you get will never make you happy. It'll make you happy for a minute, but it's diminishing returns. You can say, I want a brand new Ferrari, and you get that Ferrari. You're happy the day you get it, but immediately that happiness starts to diminish. Now, it might be 2 years before the car is just another car to you. It may be 6 months, but it's not, the happiness is not going to stay. What you get will never keep you happy. Who you become is what keeps you happy. I was in the trailer park and I was whatever person, but now that I roll at a much higher level, that's what keeps me happy. The stuff you get will never keep you happy, because if it's a new coat, the coat will get dirty. If it's a diamond ring, it'll get smeared. If it's a house, eventually a house needs maintenance. Somebody else build a bigger house. What you get will never keep you happy. Who you become keeps you happy. And progress equals happiness. You set a big, hairy, audacious goal, and you can make a step towards it one day. A couple of months later, you see you made another step. A year later, you made 2 more steps. That's what keeps you happy. That's why you have to have those big goals. Any other? Oh, okay, Miss Martin. Okay, I want to develop my inheritance from passive investment to income producing and pass those. Yeah, there you go. Those are your big goals. For Miss Martin, taking that inheritance. You're quite welcome, Militia. Taking those inheritance gains and putting them into something producing active income, like a shopping center, and passing that on to the grands. But first, making those grands put in writing, look, where are you trying to go with this? Because please don't take all my money and then y'all go out and buy some, some crap, and then next thing you know, the money's gone. I know someone right now, and I mean this literally, received an inheritance of about $1 million within a month. I mean, I'm talking about within a month ago. Unfortunately, in 2 years, that money's going to be gone. I hate to say it. I'm glad that person is not on the line. That money's going to be gone. And I don't know what else to tell them, but